All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Darden, you may continue. Certainly.
Conversation you have with Nicole Brown at West LA Station, Detective?
It was, she told me why the argument had occurred that night.
What did she tell you?
She said that there was two other women living in the house, and that O.J. Simpson had sex with one of them prior to going to bed that night with her.
Is that in your report?
No.
Why not?
Because right after I finished the report and turned it in, I started getting phone calls from the news media and newspapers, and I didn't feel that it was a relevant part of the report of the crime, and it would just be a sensationalism thing.
You saw both Nicole Brown and the defendant that night, is that correct?
Yes.
Who was the biggest physically?
O.J. Simpson was about 6'1", 215 pounds, and didn't appear to have an ounce of fat on him.
He seemed to be in good physical condition?
Extremely good.
Why did you go into the house at Cochran?
Why didn't I go? It was because it was an officer safety problem with a injured victim in the rear of my car, and I couldn't leave my partner alone, go into a locked facility like that, and there was no way anybody could get in to help me in case I needed something.
You indicated to Mr. Cochran that you'd never seen the defendant angry prior to January 1, 1989, is that correct?
That's correct.
And yet you told us today that he appeared angry to you.
That's correct.
Okay. Was there anything about him physically that caused you to conclude that he was angry?
Yes, his facial demeanor, his voice, and he had veins were popping out right here on the upper part of his head, along the side of his head. There were veins were pulsating and popping out, and I had never seen that before on television or anything.
So you associated that with anger?
Yes.
You could have arrested the defendant in his underwear had you wanted.
Overruled.
Yes. Because I knew that if I took O.J. Simpson, a person with that stature, to the station in his underwear, that there would be repercussions because the media would show up and it would get blown out of proportion.
You also told Mr. Cochran that you did not indicate in the report that Nicole Brown was.
That's correct.
Was there anything about her demeanor that night that caused you to believe that she was intoxicated?
None.
Have you had training in domestic violence?
Yes, I have.
Have you had training in the profile of a
Sustained.
Did the defendant appear afraid at all of Nicole Brown that night?
No.
She appeared to be afraid of him? Yes.
Overruled.
She appeared to be terrified.
You described earlier the mud on Nicole Brown, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you see any mud on the defendant?
None.
I have a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Reason other than a desire to be with her children, that is for her not going down to Parker Center.
That was it. She just wanted to get back to her children.
Is that what she told you at West LA Station?
Yes.
Why didn't you keep her at the station?
She wanted to get back to her children.
Was she under arrest?
No,
Has she violated any law?
none.
Was there any indication that she's beating up the defendant?
No.
And you did speak to the defendant, right?
Yes.
He didn't tell you that she beat him up, did he?
No, he did not.
You didn't book her pants into evidence?
No, I photographed him.
Why didn't you book her pants?
I felt the photograph significantly depicted what had happened to her in regards to the pants.
You told Mr. Cochran that the defendant said that the police had been out to the location 8 times before.
Yes.
Were you surprised to hear that from the defendant?
Sustained.
Well, you didn't go back to the station and check the records to see if the LAPD had been to the house 8 times before, did you?
No.
Why not?
So I felt the detective assigned to the case would do that. Once I put that statement in there, I figured it'd be part of his follow-up.
When the defendant told you that the police had been out to the house 8 times before, did he tell you that they'd been there on social calls?
No, matter of fact, I believe it was the same sort of thing.
Hold on. What's? Overruled. I said overruled. Question is, when the defendant told you that the police had been out to the house 8 times before, did he tell you that they had been there on social calls? Yes or no?
Yes, the police had been out there before. Oh, no, they were there for the same kind of an incident.
Mr. Cochran.
Let me see if I understand that last answer. Mr. Simpson told you that the police had been out 8 times before for the same kind of call? He told you that?
What he said was that
No, I'm asking
been
a
out
question.
here for the same similar type call. Yeah, you've been out here before for this, and you never did anything before.
Mr. Simpson told you, I'm trying to listen to my question if you're right. Mr. Simpson tell you that the police had been out 8 times before on calls involving a situation where he and his wife had been in a fight. He told you that?
Yes.
And did you write that in any report?
Yes.
And what did you say? If I showed you the report, can you show me where you said that?
Yes.
I'll read it to you and then I'll ask if this is what you meant.
Can we show the report to the witness? I am my copy.
This is my examination, I think, at this point.
That's correct. Doesn't have to show it to him to confront him with it. Mr. Cochran.
Thank you very kindly. page, or Mr. Douglas is looking for it. Mr. Simpson told you, did he not, that you were the only one to come to his house and make a big deal of this? Did he make that statement to you?
Yes,
And at the time he made that statement to you, he was again inside the fence and you were outside the fence, right?
that's correct.
And you've described for us that he had a robe on, is that correct?
During part of this incident, he had a robe on.
And you described for the jury that at all times he had a robe and some shorts on, sir? Can you say that?
No, he came back out dressed after a period of time.
I'm talking about during this part of the conversation, Detective. You have a robe and some shorts on?
Right.
You never, on any occasion, went over and examined Mr. Simpson's body, did you?
I was standing within a foot of him, and I could see him, and had him illuminated. We were looking through a fence.
Can you try answering my question now? Did you ever go over and examine Mr. Simpson's body?
You mean go into the property and examine it?
You know what examine means?
Yes, I examined him with my flashlight as he was standing in front of me, from standing on the outside of a fence as he was standing on the inside.
And you examined him. And when you examined him, did you examine his back?
No,
Did you examine his, the rear part of his legs?
no.
Part of his body covered by the robe, sir?
None of the part covered by the robe.
None of the body was covered by the robe?
I said I did not examine any of the part that was covered by the robe.
So there was a part, and was he wearing this robe as a robe would be worn, covering his entire body? Was it a long robe?
But it was open, loose and open in the front.
Was it a long robe?
Yes, 3/4 length.
And was it tied at the waist?
No, it was open.
And so the parts that you would not be able to see would be part of his chest, part of the front, and all of his back. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
You could not see any of that. Is that correct?
I could see part of his chest, the front part of his legs, his upper legs, lower legs, his feet, his hands, his face, and his neck. But
I
I could
ask
not
you-
see the back or the arms or the sides.
The other parts of his body you could not see and did not examine. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Now, this conversation at West Los Angeles Station, it's your testimony that Ms. Nicole Brown Simpson told you that this argument was over Mr. Simpson having sex with one of the housekeepers?
No, I didn't say that.
Who'd you say he had sex with?
I didn't say he had sex with anybody. I said that she told me that he had sex with, I believe it was she described it as a personal secretary. It was 2 women that were living in the house, and he had sex with one of them prior to this incident.
Did she give you the name of this person?
No, I didn't ask.
Now, did you write that down anywhere?
No, I wasn't going to use it in the report.
Did you write that down anywhere?
No.
And when you tell us that today, that's from your recollection, is that right?
Yes.
And do you remember the name of this person at all?
I didn't ask any names.
And this conversation wherein she told you that he had sex with a personal secretary or something of that nature, did anybody else overhear that conversation other than yourself?
I don't believe so.
Just the two of you, right? Just you
My
and Mr.
partner may have overheard it. I don't know where she was at the time.
I'm asking that you, as far as you know, just you and Miss Nicole Brown Simpson, right?
My partner may have overheard it. I don't know.
It was at West Los Angeles Station
Yes.
in the lobby there, is that right?
No, I believe it was towards the front door area as we were leaving, or somewhere in that area.
What else did she tell you about this party they had been to?
Nothing.
She tell you they both had been drinking that night?
No, she didn't say anything. I didn't ask if they'd been drinking.
Well, I'm asking you what she told you, sir. Did she tell you that they had gotten home about 3:30 from a party on New Year's Eve?
I can't remember what time she said they got home. I don't know if she did tell me what time they got home.
So you don't recall that, whether or not that happened?
I don't remember her telling me what time they got home from the party.
She mentioned to you that the argument had been over some earrings. Do you recall that?
No, she said it was over somebody that was living in the house.
She never mentioned to you anything about any earrings. Is that right?
Not that I can recall.
And certainly you didn't write that down, did you?
No.
Now, you described, in response to one of counsel's questions, that you saw veins pulsating out of Mr. Simpson's head. Is that right?
Yes.
And did you write that down in your report also, so you'd have a recollection of that?
Nope.
You didn't write that down either, did you?
No.
you recall Mr. Simpson saying to you that he and his wife had been involved in an altercation and had a kind of a mutual wrestling match? Do you remember him saying that?
I don't believe he ever said they had a wrestling match. I think he said he pushed her out of the bed, but he didn't beat her. I don't remember him ever using the word wrestling match.
You don't recall the words wrestling match?
Matter of fact, I'm positive he didn't say that.
All right, but you remember he said he pushed her out of the bed?
Right.
And you understood that she got this mud when she was pushed out of the bed?
No.
As I understand it, as an experienced officer at that time, you had almost 20 years of experience. You came upon this scene, and you saw Miss Nicole Brown Simpson, and you didn't, in the course of your investigation, speak to any other witness other than her. Is that correct? Overruled. Is that right?
No, that's incorrect. I talked to Mr. O.J. Simpson.
Well, let's take it one at a time. You didn't talk to Michelle Abduran, right?
Other than to tell her to get away from the car.
I'm talking about with regard to the investigation. You didn't talk to her about this case, right?
That's correct.
You didn't go in and talk to the nanny, right?
That's correct.
You never even went inside the house, did you?
No, I didn't.
You didn't go look to see where this might have taken place, did you?
No.
You talked to Mr. O.J. Simpson, and he told you, according to your statement, that he had pushed her out of his bed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But he hadn't beat her, right?
That's correct.
And then based upon that, you then decided you were going to place him under arrest, right?
No.
Well, you then made a decision while you're outside this gate to place Mr. O.J. Simpson under arrest. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And is there anybody else around there that you talked to?
I talked to Nicole Simpson, and I saw her.
All right, you saw Nicole Simpson. You know, do you not, sir, that if somebody gets into a fight, on occasion there may be bruises on both sides. You understand that, don't you? As
Oh,
a
yes.
police officer?
Yes.
So you talked to Nicole Simpson, you talked to O.J. Simpson, but you had made your decision, had you not, before you talked to O.J. Simpson, isn't that right?
Yes.
You made your decision after only talking with Nicole Simpson, isn't that right?
That's correct.
And you didn't talk to anybody else in connection with that decision.
Didn't talk to anybody else.
And at that time, how long had you been a police officer?
About 19 and a half years.
And had you worked as a detective at that time?
No.
You become a detective since that time?
Yes.
Were you a patrolman at that time?
Yes.
You've been 19 years on patrol?
Yes.
I have nothing further at this point, Your Honor.
Thank you.
You spoke to Nicole Brown and then you arrested the defendant. Is that correct?
I placed him under arrest. Physically, I couldn't get to him.
Okay. And what was the basis of your decision to arrest him?
Her statement of how she was injured and that I could see trauma on her.
Did the LAPD have a policy regarding spousal battery cases?
Yes.
And that policy related to when to arrest a suspected wife beater, is that correct?
Sustain. Rephrase the question, please. Rephrase the question, please.
You've read the law regarding spousal abuse, is that correct?
Yes.
And were you aware of the law as it stood in 1989?
Yes.
What duty, if any, under the law, did you have to arrest this defendant on January 1, 1989?
Overruled.
Under 273.5 of the Penal Code and 13.700 of the Penal Code, I shall arrest that person. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, wills or mays. I shall arrest the defendant.
You're required under the law, under these circumstances, to arrest.
Under the Penal Code and my department policy, absolutely, I have to arrest that person.
You told Mr. Cochran a moment ago that you did not examine the defendant up close. Is that right?
Just within about a foot with a fence between us.
Had he not run away Would you have had an opportunity to examine him?
Ogre, well, you can answer the question.
Yes, I would have had a chance to examine him thoroughly had he not fled the scene.
That was a few questions.
I'm sorry?
That was a few questions.
In legalese, if you was like 10 or 15, Your Honor. But finally, did he complain to you or show you any injuries? May I ask an answer? Last question.
No, it was a different question. Slightly different question.
Did he complain to you or show you any injuries?
No, he did not.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Cochran.
Thank you. Well, once you made your decision to arrest Mr. O.J. Simpson, you didn't ask him about any injuries anyway, did you? You just wanted to take him to jail. Isn't that right, sir?
Absolutely.
That's the situation. You weren't interested in his welfare at that point. Isn't that correct?
I could see he was not injured.
You couldn't see anything. Let me strike that. You had made a decision, and that's what you're going to carry out. Isn't that right, officer?
Under the penal code and department policy, he was going to jail for 273.5.
Right. And as you said, if the other officers had been out there 7 or 8 times, was that same law that you're under, right, that you were under on January 1st?
Exactly.
That would mean that since he wasn't arrested, nothing happened like that. Isn't that correct? Because that was the law. Isn't that correct?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. But you don't know, do you?
I don't know, neither do you.
You didn't bother checking, did you?
No.
You thought the sergeant would check that, didn't you?
I thought the sergeant or the detective that was handling the case would check that, yes.
You don't know whether or not they checked that or not, do you?
As far as I know, I don't know.
All right. Detective, thank you very much. You're excused. Please don't discuss your testimony with any other witnesses. Mr. Darden, your next witness, please.
Your Honor, I have in my hand what appears to be the LAPD policy as it related to spousal abuse. It is the policy that was in effect on January 1, 1989. May it be marked People 6 for identification.
All right, People 6.
I have one moment to check.
Please. All right, Mrs. Robertson.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I so do swear.
Please be seated and state and spell your first and last names for the record.
Mike Farrell, M-I-K-E-F-A-R-R-E-L-L.
Mr. Darden.
Sir, were you a police officer employed by the LAPD on January 3, 1989?
Yes, I was.
And what was your assignment at that time?
I was assigned to West LA Detectives, assigned to the Crimes Against Persons detail.
And did the crimes against person detail include spousal battery cases?
Yes, they did.
Did you respond to 360 North Rockingham on the morning of January 1, 1989?
No, I did not.
You were not a patrol officer at that time?
That is not, I was not a patrol officer, no.
And on January 3, 1989, were you assigned a case involving Nicole Brown and this defendant?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And who assigned you that case, if you recall?
My supervisor was Detective Sergeant Glenn Varner.
And what is a normal procedure for a detective in West LA Division after a case is assigned to them?
Well, this case, after it was assigned to me, my supervisor explained to me what I should do with it and adjudicate it as soon as possible by interviewing the victim and the defendant, if possible.
And did you interview the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Did you interview him in person?
No, I did not. I interviewed him over the telephone.
Do you recall who called who?
Yes, I phoned the residence.
And how many times did you phone the residence before you finally spoke to the defendant?
Once, I believe I called on the 3rd in the later morning before the afternoon.
Okay. Now, had someone already prearranged a time when the two of you would speak?
Not that I recall, I just made my phone call.
Okay. And he picked up the telephone?
Yes, Nicole Simpson picked up the phone.
And did you next speak to the defendant?
After I spoke with Nicole, yes, I did.
Okay. And did you recognize the defendant's voice?
Yes, I did.
Was it a voice you'd heard before?
Yes,
And where had you heard the defendant's voice before?
numerous times on television.
And did you ask the defendant about the occurrences of January 1, 1989?
Yes, I did.
And what did he say?
He explained to me that after he and Nicole returned home after a New Year's Eve party, that they were ready to, they were in their bedroom, and a verbal dispute broke out between them, and that the dispute got out of hand and it became physical. He told me that it turned into a mutual type wrestling match, and that was basically it, nothing more than that.
Did you ask the defendant about the injuries Nicole Brown sustained?
Yeah, I asked him about because I had a photograph that showed injury to her forehead, and I told him that I looked at a photograph that depicted some injury to Nicole's forehead, and he said, well, I know, I was surprised to even see that even occurred because of the incident.
Did he deny causing those injuries?
No, he did not.
Did he admit causing those injuries?
Yes, he did.
Did you ask the defendant about the 911 call to police?
No, I don't think I asked him anything about the phone call itself, no.
Okay, so basically then all you asked him was what happened?
That's correct.
Now, after receiving this information from the defendant, did you write a report?
Yes, I did.
And did you include in that report the information the defendant gave you?
Yes, I did.
Did you continue to investigate the matter?
Yes, I did. I asked, after I did the initial telephone interview with the defendant and Nicole, I told Nicole that I would like to see her in person if she could make arrangements to come to the police station. She agreed, and she would come down the next day. She would also bring her 2 kids with her, and she did come down and meet me.
Okay. And so you did meet Nicole Brown?
Yes, I did.
What day was that?
I believe that was the 4th of January, the next day.
And what injuries, if any, did you notice on her face and neck and head area at that time?
I just noticed some bruising on her forehead. That was all.
The right side of the plate.
And did you re-interview her?
Yeah, I explained to her what was going to happen in this case, and I explained to her the procedures that would happen. I reviewed the original police report with her and asked her to review it. We reviewed it together. I asked her, does this accurately depict what happened over the weekend? She said yes. I said, is this your signature on the report? She said, yes, it is. And then I explained that I would be preparing the case for a prosecuting attorney.
Did you refer the case to the LA City Attorney's Office?
Yes, I did.
And do they have a special unit that handles cases like these?
I believe they do. I met with the supervising attorney there and provided her with the information.
And what was the supervising attorney's name?
Mary Claire Molador.
You gave Deputy City Attorney Molador all the reports?
That is correct.
Did you show her the photographs?
Yes, I did.
How do we spell Molador?
I believe it's Molidor.
Do you recall the date in which you turned over your case file to the City Attorney's Office?
I believe it may have been the afternoon of the 4th or the morning of the 5th. I do not recall the exact time.
And after you referred the matter over to the City Attorney's Office, did you again speak with the defendant?
Yes, I did. He phoned me at my desk early in the afternoon. I believe it was after lunch.
Was the case against the defendant filed?
Yes, it was.
What was filed?
One count of spousal battery. I believe it's 273A of the Penal Code. I'm not exactly sure. Sure.
When you spoke to the defendant on the telephone, January 5, that call was January 5,
That
correct?
is correct.
Okay. When you spoke to him on the telephone on January 5, what did he say?
Well, Mr. Simpson phoned me, and he was inquiring about what this case status with his incident was. I explained to him that I had turned over the entire case file to the city attorney's office, and a decision had not yet been made. And the defendant and I did have a conversation. He discussed with me his feelings about the matter. He wanted to relay to me that he was sorry that the police had to come to his residence, and that me, as a detective, had to get involved in his personal problems. And he was really remorseful about what happened that day, and that he and Nicole were going to seek counseling to resolve their family problems, and that if I could relay that to the city attorney when they make their final decision in filing the case. I told Mr. Simpson I would do that, but I also told Mr. Simpson that it's most likely he is looking at filing for a criminal charge, and that he did one day have to face up to what happened and would have to answer for it.
Do you recall him saying anything else?
No, it was actually a pleasant conversation. I don't recall anything else.
Okay. Did you write a report in this matter?
Yes, I did.
I have a report here, Your Honor. It's dated February 8, 1989.
Report, February 8th,
Yes.
89.
And before I proceed with the report, Detective, did the defendant describe for you or mention to you how Nicole Brown sustained the injuries she sustained?
Again, he explained that it was a result of an argument that they gotten into that resulted in a physical altercation, more of a mutual type wrestling match. Nothing else.
Do you recall everything that was said in the conversation?
That's most that I recall. If I could look, if I have anything else I could refer to the report,
Would that refresh your recollection?
yes.
May I, Your Honor?
You may.
I'd like to show the witness the report dated February 8, 1989. Mr. Cochran has a copy.
All right, Detective, you can just read that to yourself, please.
Have you read the report, Detective?
Yes.
Does it refresh your recollection?
Yes, it does.
What else did the defendant say?
He told me that he was sorry for what he did to Nicole and that he didn't mean to harm her in any way and that he would seek counseling with her.
Didn't he also tell you that he knew that what he did was wrong?
Yes, he did.
Isn't that what you wrote in your report?
Yes, I did.
And when he told you that he didn't mean to harm his wife, did he elaborate on that at all?
Not that I recall.
He didn't describe the incident as a mutual wrestling match in this January 5 conversation, did he?
No, he did not.
Did he ask you not to file a case?
He asked me to relay his feelings about the whole matter to the city attorney's office.
And did you do that?
Yes, I did.
The report that you just read, dated February 8, 1989, that report wasn't in existence when you referred the matter to the city attorney's office. Is that correct?
No, I maybe have to make something clear on the report. It's dated 2/8/89. That may be a typographical error. The case was filed on January the 30th, 1989. I may have typed the statement that he gave me that same day, and I may have put the wrong date on there. It should be, I believe it's 1/8/89.
Okay. But he did apologize for his conduct.
Yes, he did. He was very cordial about it.
Now, after you referred the matter to the city attorney's office, did they give you any further directions?
Yes, after some time, they asked me to look into the other incidents that were described by Nicole. She apparently told the officers who responded to her home that the police had been out there on numerous other times, and they asked me to look into that situation.
And did you look into that situation?
Yes, I did.
Did you determine that there were other situations or occasions when LAPD officers went to 360 North Rockingham?
Yes, I did. I inquired with some of the more senior officers at West LA that had been working the division for over the last 5 years and asked.
I'd like to reject, it's not totally responsible. Inquired with Tim Peterson. I'm not sure of the response.
Sustain.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
what
so
action?
the-
I'm sorry.
Question just a little overbroad.
What action, if any, did you take to determine whether or not other police units or officers had gone to Rockingham?
I spoke with senior officers at West LA and asked them if they had ever been to the location on Rockingham in the past.
All right, Mr. Darden, I take it you're about to launch into another line of inquiry at this point?
Did you do anything else?
Excuse me, Mr. Darden?
Yes.
I take it you're about to launch into another line of inquiry at this point?
Yes.
All right, we're going to take our afternoon recess, and at this point, if you recall our schedule for times, we actually get started at 1:30. We're going to take our break at 2:45 because it takes the sheriff half an hour to cycle the jurors. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our afternoon recess for this afternoon. We'll resume at 15 minutes after 3. Please remember my admonition to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions, have any contact with anybody, or conduct any deliberations, and we'll see you back here at 3:15. All right, we're in recess.